This week's gone a bit slow, but who cares? This is the OTC podcast. We're reviewing the latest WSL games and looking into the managerial changes at Sheffield Wednesday and Derby County, whilst also dishing out some controversial talking points. All that and more to come in the OTC podcast. Hello and welcome to OTC podcast with myself, Regan, Walsh, and my co-presenter Bradley Morris.
Pretty miserable week, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a quite weird few days because when we spoke on Friday, there wasn't a lot that's happened in the world of football. Within a few hours of finished recording, it's confirmed that Mohamed Salah of Liverpool has tested positive for COVID-19. What else did we say on Friday broke? There was something else. Was it Wigan had changed their manager? No, that was it. It was England Lionesses game against Norway that was scheduled for December the 1st had been called off due to Norway not wanting to travel, understandable reasons.
I got someone's decided that.
Yes, but it's a bit of bad news for Phil Neville's side because it now means they would have gone a year since they last played when they next get together properly for a competitive game, which will be February-March time of 2021 when they play again. So that's a bit annoying for his side there.
It would make a very interesting tournament at the Euros if none of them played a single game. Level playing field, almost.
Isn't there? Because
it would add intrigue. It would.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it was announced earlier on today that the Netherlands will be playing the USA on the 27th of this month. So
the Americans have ruined everything again.
As usual. So that's a bit of an advantage to them there. And I think, as far as I'm aware, other international sides will be playing. Well, the England team are still set to meet up anyway, but it is just going to be another in-house friendly that they're going to do. So it's just the starting 11. So the 11 side thing that they've done at St George's Park in the past now. Not too sure what the starting 11 is going to be at all, or who's even going to be in the squad. Obviously, because I'm not too sure when Phil Neville will announce it, but it should be in the coming weeks or coming days, probably. To the Lionesses and England women players. As we said on Friday, it was the WSL Women's Football weekend, which saw women's football in the Super League take forefront attention. As we said, it started at Leigh Sports Village between Manchester United and Manchester City in a game that finished 2-2. Gareth Taylor's Man City side took the lead after 8 minutes after a spectacular goal from Chloe Kelly. And then just before the half-time, Laura Coombs doubled the Citizens' lead with a great shot past Mary Earps. However, in the second half, a substitution at half-time seeing Kirsty Hansen come on seemed to change the game for Manchester United. And within the opening 10 minutes, they were half the deficit thanks to Tobin Heath getting a goal. And then 15 minutes from time, Hansen herself got on the score sheet to rescue the point for Casey Stoney's side, which sees them remain at the top of the table and stay undefeated in the WSL this season. Watching that as a neutral, Brad, what were your thoughts on the game?
I guess you could say why those two are the top teams.
Mm-hmm.
The quality was clear, and if anything, it was a good sign of Man United's title aspirations, I guess we could call it that.
Yeah. I think the main thing from me watching it was clear to see that the changes that were made by Casey Stoney and the halftime team talk she gave, she definitely wasn't happy with how they performed in the first half and understandably so as well, because they were quite poor in that first half, and Man City seemed to dominate in the first half, mainly with set pieces coming from corners. They seemed to dominate United, and that's how they managed to get their first goal. United failed to clear a corner, and then it was a lovely outside the boot shot by Chloe Kelly. Bit of luck, but also takes a lot of incredible skill. And as I mentioned in the preview show on Friday, she would be one of the players to look out for. So definitely worth the shout there. The other player in the game I said to have a look out for would be Manchester United's Ella Toone, who had a relatively quiet game compared to what she has had the rest of the season, but has also done pretty well in the game. Then at half two saw the second City derby as Aston Villa played Birmingham City, and it was the visitors that won 1-0 thanks to a Claudia Walker goal in the 72nd minute. Again, someone who I said to look out for this weekend, and she scores
Is
a
this whole podcast
beautiful
just one
goal.
ego boost for you?
I mean, you might as well be at this rate because, I mean, I think it was 4 or 5 players that I said to look out for at the start of this weekend all scored, and I think the majority of them had big performances. Obviously, being an Aston Villa fan, seeing the men's side beat Blues on a regular basis, this one must be hard to take.
No, but no, fair play to them. Although I felt we had a lot more chances and probably deserved something from it.
Yeah, I think it definitely wasn't as one-sided as I was predicting. I thought Blues would somewhat control the game a bit more than they did, but fair play to Aston Villa. They held themselves really well throughout the game. Again, they looked like they could have got a couple of goals themselves. One surprising thing though from the game I didn't realise until the commentator said it in the second half was that Birmingham City only had 2 substitutes available due to the amount of injuries they had, and they made the first one within the opening 9 minutes of it, with Lucy Wibb coming on, who did actually turn provider for the Claudia Walker goal. So that was definitely a good substitution of the 2 that they could have made, and they did bring on the other substitute 10 minutes from time. Elsewhere in the WSL, after that, we headed up north to Wharton Hall Park as Everton played Reading. The Toughies took the lead just before half-time with Simone McGill getting on the score sheet. Again, another player that I said to look out for in this weekend, and she goes and scores. And then moments later, Natasha Harding scored. It's a weird goal to describe if you haven't seen it, but it was one of them cross shot goals. It was very hard to see whether she meant it or not.
She probably
Jane
did.
Ludlow, who was on Kerr commentary, seems to think she meant it, but I'm not too sure whether she did myself. But either way, it was a good result for both sides. It keeps them both in the middle of the table. Well, Reading 7th, Everton 4th. Again, that was a really good game to watch. Very end to end throughout the 90 minutes.
There was the chance at the end that just was a great save from Reading goal to stop Everton winning right there.
Yes, Grace Maloney with the incredible save at the 90th minute it was, and I honestly did think it had initially gone in, but Maloney did really well to stop him and to have the points shared. Next up, the final game on Saturday saw Tottenham take on Bristol City. We got to see Alex Morgan for the first time as she was named in the starting 11. However, she only lasted 45 minutes, being taken off at halftime, which I imagine was a planned thing to do by the Tottenham coaching staff, considering she has barely played at all this season. What were your thoughts on the game, looking at as a whole?
It seemed as open, I guess, but
Yeah,
for Tottenham, that's a That's a disappointment. They couldn't get all 3 points in the end.
Yeah, you would think, considering the circumstances, that was definitely their best chance to pick up a win, and they will be disappointed with themselves that they haven't picked up a win this in that game. We had goals from Chloe Logarzo from a penalty spot just before half time, and then moments later, Siri Vorm equalised for Tottenham with an excellent free kick on the right-hand side. And then in the second half, Spurs took the lead through fullback Ashley Neville getting on the end of a header from a Siri Vorm free kick. And then 10 minutes later, Rihanna Dean was sent off for a coming together with Bristol City keeper Sophie Baggerley, which saw both require a lot of treatment and were down for a while. And the referee brandished Dean with the red card, understandably so as well. However, the one thing I noticed on the commentary team is that neither of them seemed to notice that she'd been sent off in the game at all until like a couple of minutes from the end. And just before the end of the game, in stoppage time itself, Ebony Salmon, who had a great game and had a lot of chances for Bristol City, scored the equaliser once again. I said at the start of this weekend she'd be one to look out for, and she did.
We get it, you know your statistics.
In today's action saw West Ham play host to Brighton and Hove Albion at the Chigwell Construction Stadium. This was a game that could have went either way throughout the game. I think West Ham definitely had the better chances in the first half, and I'd say probably throughout the majority of the game they had the better chances, but it was a Rihanna Jarrett goal in the 69th minute that gave Brighton the win. The victory actually sees them move above West Ham in the table. Again, really close fought game, which I think we both expected to be. Looking back on predictions, you said it'd be a draw and I had a Brighton win, but I said 3-2. So I was expecting the flurry of goals to happen in that game, but still expecting it to be a close one. And then finally, we have just seen... Go on.
I was going to say, less said of the predictions, the better.
Yeah, we'll get onto them in a short while.
Not every
However, in the final game of the weekend, we just saw Arsenal play Chelsea at Meadow Park, and it finished in a 1-1 draw. Both sides didn't really test either keeper in the first half, and I think it was very easy for Manuela Zinsberger and Anna Katerinberger in goal for Chelsea. 4 minutes from time. Sorry, before we get on to the Arsenal goal, there was that chance for Caitlin Ford just before half-time for Arsenal where she struck the crossbar twice with the shot, and
straight out of FIFA, that one.
All the time I've watched football, I don't think I've ever seen that happen in a game before. Hit off the crossbar, come back, still being played, hit off the crossbar again, and then come down to an Arsenal striker, which I believe was Beth Mead at the time, and it not go in. It was just crazy. And shortly before the end of the game, 4 minutes from time, Beth Mead actually did score for the Gunners. This came from excellent play on the left-hand side from Dutch striker Viviana Miedema, who didn't really have much in the game in terms of chances or clear cut to test the Chelsea defence, but it was after Millie Bright had got her injury. She didn't seem to fully recover, so Miedema was able to get past her easily, and then she squared the ball to Beth Mead, though the Chelsea defenders were appealing for offside. It clearly wasn't, and it gave what Arsenal thought was going to be the winner. However, in the dying minutes of the game, just before we entered stoppage time, great work from Pernilla Harder on the right-hand side. She tries to cross in the ball, but it takes a deflection of Lottie Wubben-Moy, the Arsenal defender, and it loops over Manu Zinsberger to level the points, which is really hard for Arsenal because I think They deserve the win just that little bit more than Chelsea in my eyes, and it's going to be a hard one to take for Gunners fans. So looking back at the table now, Man United remain top on 17 points. Arsenal are in second. Chelsea move up to third on goal difference ahead of Everton, who are in fourth. Man City finish are in fifth, and then Birmingham City sixth, Reading 7, Brighton 8, West Ham 9, Aston Villa 10, and then the bottom two teams are still Tottenham Hotspur and Bristol City. Overall, it was a very entertaining weekend, I've got to say. None of the games were really one-sided, I think.
No, I had
All
predicted
teams
one of
could
the
have won
games.
every game.
I guess so.
Looking back on our predictions now from the games, as we started our little predictions league on Friday, we said if we got the right score, wrong team, we'd get a point. Right team, wrong score, 2 points. Correct score and team, 3 points.
Hang on. Hold on. This is the first time I'm hearing these points tallies. I hadn't done that.
We did have that on Friday. I did say.
Did you say? Because I said a completely different scoring system.
What was your scoring system?
My scoring system was you get a point if you get the right outcome. So if you predict the draw and it ends in a draw, if you predict the right winner, you get a point for the right winner. And you only get a bonus point if you get the correct score.
Oh, I said it different on the show on Friday.
Where's this 3 points shit come from?
Yeah, because we said we're doing it like they do on the BBC, where it's 3 points for the correct score and team. If you get the right team, wrong score, you get 2 points. And if you get the score right, but for the wrong team, you get a point. I'm sure that's how they do it on the BBC.
I mean, mine was less complicated.
Is it?
Yes. Just 1 point if you get the right winner.
No, it should be 2 points for the right winner. So anyway, looking back at it,
fine, we'll do it your way, just because.
Okay, so for the Manchester derby, we both went with 2-1. Obviously, no points there because it finished in the draw. Villa Blues, you said 2-1 to Villa. I said 2-0 to Blues. So I get 2 points. Then we said Everton Reading, you went 3-1. I went with 2-2. So that one, I get the 2 points because it's correct outcome, but not the correct score.
I think you see how much more complicated this is.
Yeah, I think that game's made it complicated because of the draws, me getting it right. But that was correct for me in terms of getting.
These three were just hitting me further into the ground.
Then you went with 3-2 Spurs. I went with 1-0 Spurs. So neither of us get a point there.
But of course, Spurs were winning at the end.
Until Ebony Salmon scored in stoppage time with a header. Then today you went with West Ham and Brighton to draw 1-1. I went with 3-2 to Brighton. It was there. West Ham definitely had a chance to win it towards the end as well. And Martha Thomas had a good chance in the first half. So that's another 2 points to me. So that means I'm on 6 with all my calculations. And then Arsenal-Chelsea, you went with 3-1. I went with 2-1. Again, I would have got the 2 points if Chelsea. I had it with the 2 points if Chelsea didn't score, and then you would have had it as well if Chelsea hadn't scored as well. So it means you finish this weekend on 0 points while I finish on 6, which I'll take that.
No point.
Yes. In other news in the world of football, Derby County sacked manager Philip Cocu on Friday, was it? Friday evening or Saturday daytime?
I could have swore it was yesterday.
Yesterday lunchtime, yes. And they've announced that Wayne Rooney and Liam Rosener and just one of the other coaches will be in temporary charge, though they will announce the new manager once the full takeover is complete, which should be in the coming weeks. No surprise that Cocu has been sacked on my behalf, considering Derby are rock bottom of the championship. A little surprised it took this long. I thought it would have came earlier on in the week.
I think they were just waiting for the takeover,
Yeah.
which does look quite exciting for them. If you
Yes.
on paper it looks exciting, but can't
It
always
could
trust the
have
Asian owners.
it could have the similar effect to what happened with Wolverhampton Wanderers when they got their takeover. They then just dominated the following season in the Championship and won promotion and have looked like a really good Premier League side since.
They got the right Chinese owners.
Yes. Also helps that they're good friends with the Portuguese super agent George Mendes, who literally owns every player in Portugal and every Portuguese talent, and that's how Wolves have managed to secure a lot of Portuguese players on their squad. I nearly said roster then, but that's too American. In other managerial news, earlier on in the week, Sheffield Wednesday sacked manager Gary Monk after a poor start to the season for the not the Blades, that's their rivals, the Owls. The sacking came days after their points deduction was halved, if I remember correctly, or overturned, so they only lost 6 points. And they have since appointed Tony Pulis in charge until the end of the season. So
good old Pulis
you'll be
Ball's
seeing
back.
Pulis Ball will be back. You'll be seeing the baseball cap and the white Adidas trainers on a
I fell asleep
touchline near you. On a touchline near you very soon.
In fairness, if he keeps them up, it's a good job. But then they'll hate him the season after.
Yeah, that's the thing. If they stay up, he'll probably get the job for like a 2-year deal. But if he goes down, are Sheffield Wednesday fans really going to be blaming him for it, or are they going to be blaming for the points deduction at the start of the season?
They will be once they start seeing the football.
True. There was rumours that Phil Neville could have taken charge, which would have been.
I saw loads of names getting linked to it. It was a bit weird.
Yeah, it was one of the few times that there was really like 5 or 6 names.
Sol Campbell's name was thrown in,
which was a really surprising one. I think seeing Sol Campbell's name thrown in it. Be interesting to see how he gets on at Hillsborough in the coming weeks, and so can he get them performing well? And his first game in charge of Sheffield Wednesday is an away trip to Preston next Saturday, the 21st at 3 o'clock. As we mentioned in our preview show on Monday, no, our review show last Monday, sorry, not a preview show, our review show, that they were planning to scrap the pay-to-view games in the Premier League after that weekend's fixtures, and they have now done it, and they have announced that more games are going to be on BT and Sky, and then the rest that aren't are going to be shown on the BBC starting straight after the international break, which is a really good thing for the Premier League to come up with, and I don't know why they didn't do that in the first place.
Money.
Oh yeah, we all know it was some money reason. I believe the first game on the BBC will be Fulham versus Everton on Sunday the 22nd at midday, which will likely be an easy Everton win, despite their recent dip in form.
All I'll say is it's going to be nice watching Villa at 3 o'clock on a Saturday again.
Yeah, it's actually 3 o'clock the next week.
I can't remember the last time we actually played at 3 o'clock.
I don't remember the last time.
Don't even try and think about it. It's too long.
I'm trying to think the last time Man United play at 3 o'clock.
You never play at 3 o'clock.
Exactly. We're not even playing 3 o'clock. We're 8 o'clock against West Brom. But we'll look forward to that later on
Nobody's looking forward to Man United versus West Brom.
A bit of sad news came out in the last hour or so. in former Liverpool, Tottenham and England goalkeeper Ray Clements has passed away at the age of 72. It was announced on Sunday. The legendary goalkeeper played 62 times for England, a remarkable career in which he won 5 First Division titles, which is now known as the Premier League, 3 European Cups, 2 UEFA Cups, 1 FA Cup and 1 League Cup during his time with Liverpool. And his best ever performance, or best ever, was in 40 conceded 16 goals, which is a phenomenal feat. In 665 games for the Reds in total in all competitions, he kept 323 clean sheets before moving to Tottenham in 1981, and he won the FA Cup the following season and the UEFA Cup 2 seasons later with Spurs. And more recently, he was a part of the England coaching staff from 1996 to 2013 when he retired. And it's terrible news, and our thoughts and prayers go out to family, friends and close ones of Ray.
Horrible. It's 2020, man.
It really does sum up 2020 in a nutshell when we can't even have a bit of good news for ages. So we're on to a part now where Brad is going to test me on or ask me some football questions and get my opinion on them. So I'll hand over to you now, Brad. Fire away with what you've got for me.
For visual representation, he's basically the bait on the end of my fishing hook, and I'm about to launch him into the oceans that is football Twitter.
Okay.
So, I'm quite nice. I've quite nice this first one. It's all of the more general ones that gets knocked about now and again. 20 times up. Celtic and Rangers should be allowed in the English football pyramid.
Nope.
No, how come?
They always say that they should play in the Premier League. It's ridiculous. I mean, yes, they might be better than some of the League 1 and 2 teams, but I wouldn't put them as far up as in the Premier League. I think it wouldn't be as easy as everyone thinks. Plus, you got to think of the travel for fans. I mean, imagine, say, Friday, 8 o'clock kickoff, Southampton versus Celtic. The travel would take... You would have to take Thursday off to travel to Scotland.
You'd think that wouldn't
happen.
You'd think you wouldn't come down to that, but that's your opinion.
I don't see it
happening. You don't see them having a Cardiff or Swansea situation and just deciding, do you know what? We'll let them in.
No, the thing is, though, with Cardiff, Swansea and Wrexham being in English football, is because at the time they didn't have a professional Welsh league. So they were allowed to join the FA. And, I mean, travel to Cardiff, Swansea and Wrexham sometimes can be quite bad for English teams, but it's way worse if, like I said, Southampton, even Brighton, and even the London clubs having to go, up to Scotland. Like, it's bad enough them lot going to Newcastle. I think I looked yesterday, Southampton to Newcastle, which was the Friday night game, is like 4 and a bit hours travel, between 4.5 hours to 5 hours travel. So then you got to add on an extra hour or two on top of that just to get into Scotland. So I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I do. And but we should put this in for disclaimer. I don't all the talking points that are coming up are not ones that I necessarily believe in. I'm merely just saying what I've discovered on the internet.
Okay. Fire away with your next one then.
Are you actually ready for this one? Because I mean, I know what you're going to say with it, but
come
on. Ryan Giggs isn't even in the top 5 Premier League players of all time.
Right, who said that? And name me. Okay.
And I'm not naming this person. It's your opinion. It's just your opinion. Go ahead.
In terms of skill-wise and ability and goal scoring,
ignore the honours.
He's not. In terms of, like, is he the most skillful and was he the most attractive to watch? Not really, compared to what you've had with Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp. But you can't ignore the honours. That's just not how it works. He's the most decorated Premier League player. He's the second or maybe now third most appearances in Premier League history, because Gareth Barry overlooking, I don't know how close James Milner is to that record. He was ever present in the Manchester United squad every season from his debut season right up until he retired. He was always in and around the squad. He's not the best player to ever play in the Premier League. I won't say that. I'll 100% agree. He's not the best, but he has to be in the top 5. For me, top 5 players to play in the Premier League.
So you've read my mind then.
Ryan Giggs, Thierry Henry, Alan Shearer, Cristiano Ronaldo, and 5 is a toss-up between Didier Drogba and Sergio Aguero.
See, I don't think Ronaldo's in there.
You don't think Ronaldo's in there?
I don't. I don't. No. I think you're putting
what he did at
you're putting
such a young
Aguero instead. You put.
No, for what Ronaldo did at such a young age. Bearing in mind, Man United bought him when he was 18, I believe. He'd not long turned 18 when we signed him from Sporting Lisbon. What he did in the few years he was in the Premier League was extraordinary. And for me, I don't think we've ever seen a player have such a big impact in such a small amount of time in the Premier League. Maybe Eric Cantona would also be up there.
It's such a small time. Aguero has been there less time and has scored way more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Probably the same amount. That's why I think Aguero goes ahead of him.
Yeah, I didn't say in any order, but I'd say the 5th place is between Aguero and Drogba, because Aguero, like you said, what he's done at Man City has been phenomenal. He's single-handedly won them the title in 2012.
I think Balotelli says hi.
I mean, yes, it was his only assist whilst at Man City, but that doesn't really matter.
You can't have Aguero without Balotelli.
Well, if you look at it, Aguero starts off the move. So you can have... Yeah, I know what Martin Tyler says, but for me, Aguero has to go there. And then why Drogba's also on the cusp is like what he did during his team.
Close.
He's top 10, top 15, but he's not top 5 for me, Frank. I think
it's debatable.
What he did at Chelsea, like he's the top scoring midfielder ever in Premier League history. Great service to both Chelsea and then his little 18 months to 2 years what he had at Man City.
I thought it was 1 year, but
I can't remember whether it was a year to a year and a half. But yeah, great servant to the Premier League, and I think he has to be in the top 10.
Interesting. That will the football Twitter will destroy you. But if they would destroy this on this one, you're screwed.
Okay.
Because you are going to have to do the unimaginable.
Okay. Bearing in mind, people, I haven't heard any of these questions before. This is the very first time that I'm hearing them. So these are my raw opinions, just not having any time to prepare an answer. So fire away with question number 3, Brad.
You want controversial talking? This one certainly is, and I know you don't agree with this thing that I'm about to bring up, but I need you to argue why VAR is the greatest thing to ever happen in football.
Right, here
Good
we go.
luck, boy.
Being used in the MLS, it's been 100% in the games that I've watched this season in the MLS. It's worked great. So there's been decisions where there's been offsides or potential penalties, and that the VAR assistant has looked at it and has gone, okay, it's either correct or it's wrong. Referee, we need you to come over just to see where you've been wrong in your instance and overturn the call. And it's been used 99%, I would say, not 100% right in the MLS, but it's been used exceptionally well in the MLS in the decision making. Premier League, we've had not so much success. There's been a lot of controversy over the offsides, as we mentioned on Friday, the Patrick Bamford one, when his arm was offside, and apparently you can now score with your arm. And there's been a lot of other controversial decisions. However, bearing in mind it was first brought out 2 years ago. I think either yesterday or today I saw the BBC put out a post about it saying it's been 2 years since VAR was first brought about. So
Was it before
they've
the
been
World
using
Cup?
it now. No, it would have been after the World Cup,
Or
or they might have
it was at the World Cup.
Yeah, it was used in the World Cup, and then it was announced in the November that the Premier League would be using it from 2019-20. Yes, that's what I meant, not first brought out in the world. So you've got to remember, these officials are using it for their first, they've been using it for just over 12 months now. They're going to get decisions wrong. Referees have been getting decisions wrong for years, so it's still a new technology. They need to give it more patience. I think if we come back in a year or two and it hasn't improved in the Premier League, then I would happily say get rid of it. But it still needs time, and they need to, because it's not clear to the officials. It's each official doing it per game is making up their mind. So, which is what the referee was doing before VAR was introduced. It was down to one official rather than having a strict set of right for an offside. It has to be more than this millimeter rule that we're seeing, like his elbow or his big toe was offside. There needs to be something written by, whether it's the FA, UEFA, or FIFA, or it wouldn't be them, it'd be the IFAB, who are the rules makers in football, to say, right, this is what we have to do for the offside call, penalty calls, and tell referees, right, if a call has been made by VAR, you have to go over to the screen. Not this, sometimes you go over, sometimes you don't, or don't go over at all. Go to the screen and look at it. And with more use of it, it will become better decisions, I think. But this thing of it being a decision by decision basis by the officials is why fans are questioning why is it being brought into the Premier League. But definitely it's worked in the MLS, and I think it's one that's going to stay for the foreseeable future rather than going anytime soon.
Christ, he could talk for it, man.
Yeah.
Just fair play. I didn't expect you to come with the full argument that you should be a politician.
God, I can't stand around that many. I'm not going to use the word, but that many idiots. I'll use that word instead of the word I was going to say.
Depending on what word that is, I can make an exception.
Starts with toss and ends in ers.
You've just said it anyway.
I didn't, because I broke it down, so it's not the word.
We're an explicit podcast anyway, doesn't matter.
Yes. Go on. Have you got a fourth one?
No, I don't. That is
it.
You're finished for another week.
Yeah, I don't think they were too overly bad decisions. Yeah, I think quite easy for a first week of. I'll expect them to get harder as the weeks
Because I
go
know you're a
by.
person that will just say shit. You don't care.
Yeah, but as long as I know in my head I'm right, and
There we go.
no, I'm not that type of person where I know I'm 100% right. I'll accept when I'm wrong, obviously. But them three stuff that you've asked me, I think the majority of people would, maybe not the VAR one, but I think the other two, so top 5 Premier League players, and I've completely forgotten what the first one was now because it's been about 10 minutes to 15 minutes since I talked.
It was about Celtic and Rangers, but yes,
Celtic and Rangers. I think the majority of people would agree with me on those two.
Being forgotten about. Just
That's the second time in a couple of days I've forgotten about the Scottish. Yeah, so I think those first two talking points, I think will have a majority agree with me. Maybe not in the obviously I didn't say the specific order for the top 5 players, but they could understand my reasoning. And then the VAR one was always going to throw a toss up. Okay. Also in world football, you may have seen that EA Sports have announced that you can now play as Dua Lipa in the game FIFA 21, as well as Lewis Hamilton and a few other stars. Right, whilst I'm all good for that because they get the promotion and it's all good for FIFA and that because Dua Lipa is one of the songs on FIFA. I don't know why they've got Lewis Hamilton in it at all.
Salute the
Makes no
seven-time world
sense to me.
champion.
I think it was obviously he was going to win, but we're not a Formula One podcast, whatever. You've got to ask your question right. So I saw this one the other day. They can get a face scan and it looks quite a lot like Dua Lipa, yet they can't get a Mason Greenwood face scan.
I knew you'd be pissed at this. It took them a year to get Jack Grealish right, so just allow them.
Well, it took them a year to get Erling Haaland right as well. Because do you remember him last year? He just looked like a baked potato. It was awful. And then another thing which I've seen, because obviously,
But
we
I
were talking
still
about
don't think they still haven't picked John McGinn. So
no, there's a lot of players that don't look like him. But the other
this game
thing
doesn't
I
even have Ellen
saw,
Rowe, did it?
yeah, another problem I saw was someone said is you can get Dua Lipa in it fine. You can play as I think about 8 to 10 women's national teams, which is good. But why haven't they added the Women's Premier League into it yet? Yes, maybe a lot of people might not play it. Your typical boy gamer is not going to watch the Women's Super League. But for those that might encourage more young girls to go out and buy FIFA and say, right, I look up to, I really like how Manchester City play, or I like Arsenal, I want to play with Viviana Miedemar and Katie McCabe and other players. Yet they can't do it yet. They can do like an international thing, which is only on the kickoffs, or if you create your own tournament mode.
Because it looked like they were getting somewhere a couple of years ago when they did the journey.
Yeah,
There's the female story in that one. So.
but even that, if you remember, it wasn't as long as the Alex Hunter one, was it? It was only, and it was only after a while of completing the Alex Hunter one that you could go and do his sister's short journey. So, like, they've done the gap of right.
I'm still sad we didn't get part 3 where he took on the government and fed the kids.
Yes, there was always a lot of similarities to saying it was basically the Marcus Rashford story at the time. Yeah, it really was. They just
Alex
used
Hunter
Marcus Rashford
was the real life project in Mbappe.
And then Gareth Walker was just that annoying friend who thinks he's better than everyone.
He was Mason Mount. he was like.
Oh, brilliant. Mason Mount. England are set to play Belgium. At the time of recording, the game hasn't started. Though I do think Southgate said Jack Grealish would be starting in this game. Did he not?
It has been confirmed that he's set to play his first competitive game in an England shirt.
Against the number 1 ranking side in the UEFA Nations League.
It's only because Raheem Sterling's injured, but yeah.
That's another injury. We've got Nations League games happening at the minute, and some happened yesterday. Trying to understand it all, I still don't. I don't know anyone that does understand it, though I know with France's 1-0 victory over Portugal yesterday, because they're in one of the top 4 division things, whatever they're called, they've advanced to next year's semi-finals.
Yeah, pretty much it's what we were in, and we still qualify, I think. We win.
I'll take your word for it. My Nations League knowledge is as slim as a... I don't know what slim. I can't think of anything.
Let's not finish that sentence.
Yeah. Talking about injury news, there was obviously what we talked about on Friday, that Joe Gomez is set to miss the remainder of the season.
You cursed this. You definitely cursed this.
Yes, I know. They did get another injury in Andrew Robertson. Though I did see a story earlier that because Joe Gomez got injured on international duty, Liverpool can apply to FIFA as to get some compensation wage, where FIFA will cover part of his, I think it's 80 grand, they said, a week wages, because obviously players get paid while on international duty by the federation, so the FA. And there is a law that says, because something that England signed up to, that if a player gets injured, they can be paid by FIFA their wages.
That's a new one on me.
Yes.
I think of all the injuries we've seen in international breaks, I've just never heard of this rule once.
Yeah, it was strange. First time it happens to a big Liverpool player, like after they've had a good season, and it's all of a sudden big news and came around. As we said, Andrew Robertson got injured in their game the other day, so
they've lost their whole back line.
Yeah, they've lost their whole back four through injury, and potentially, I don't know, was Alisson a part of the group we said was around the Brazil player that tested positive the other day? I think he was.
I believe so, because I know Douglas Luiz was supposedly part of that.
And I don't know. And I know Alex Telles of Manchester United was also.
If he doesn't play anywhere.
That's because he's missed games because of having coronavirus himself.
Excuses.
So I don't know what the situation is with them, like who has came back positive, or if anyone has, or if they're going to have to be in isolation. So if that does, Liverpool could have a whole new back five come their next game and have their whole starting five out of a game.
I'm sure the lost compensation package will get them a brand new centre back.
So what they've said, I've just seen this report from about Alex Teller. So it says he tested negative for COVID twice this week, but tested positive on their PCR test on Saturday, according to the Brazilian media department. He is no longer in the stage of transmission of the disease. He will undergo further tests today, so this was 6 hours ago, and if he returns another positive COVID test, he will be cut from the Brazil squad to face Uruguay in the coming days, as Uruguay do not allow people in these conditions to enter the country, even if they are asymptomatic. So that could be even more bad news for Man United if he has returned a positive, because he could be out for more game time, which is going to be bad news. I think that is all the news, unless anything else has happened I can think of.
There's nothing else that's happened this week. Is awful. As he isn't it?
Though this time next week we'll be looking back on the Premier League fixtures, thankfully, and this is the this is the last international break of the year, isn't it?
I hope it's the last international break for quite a while, because if there's something I don't want to be looking at in lockdown, it's an international break.
Lockdown or no lockdown, I don't want to be seeing an international break unless it's a major tournament, as they're only every 2 years with either the Euros or the World Cup. We've got to wait until next summer.
I'm looking forward to next summer.
Yes, it should be
if
good.
All goes well.
Yes.
But right now we suffer.
So we'll be back later on in the week to preview. Go on.
As Guns N' Roses said, nothing lasts forever, even in cold November rain.
Very good analogy there. So later on in the week, we will be previewing this.
Someone's got to be cultured on this podcast.
We'll be previewing the Premier League games, which start at 12:30 next Saturday as Newcastle entertain Chelsea. There's also the 2 MLS play-in games for the playoffs, which sees the New England Revolution play the Montreal Impact on Friday evening. And then
you said they call them play-in games.
Play-in games because it's hard to explain. I'll explain it later on in the week if I can understand it any better. And then the other
I don't think it
playoff playing game is Nashville versus Inter Miami.
Bloody American analogies again.
Well, that is all we have time for. If you
They
did
couldn't
enjoy
even call it play on. Like
no, it's a playoff play in because it's like the normal playoffs, but it's the bit before the playoffs for these 4 teams because I think they must have finished on a similar record and points per game, so they have to play in to get into the playoffs.
Why does this make everything so complicated?
It's America. That's why.
Yeah. Stop just do things simple.
In the future, maybe. Right. If you have enjoyed the podcast, wherever you're listening to, make sure you are subscribed so you never miss a future episode. And if you are listening on YouTube, don't forget to leave us a like and a comment as what you thought of it and your opinions on those 3 questions that Brad asked me. And
don't go easy on him.
Yes, if you think I'm a total idiot and don't agree with my decisions, then fair enough. I'll happily take that. And make sure you follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at OffTCPod, all one word, OffTCPod. And like I said, subscribe to us on YouTube. This will also be available on our website, and we will have more articles later on in the week for users to enjoy. Until our preview show later on Thursday or Friday, we will see you then. And it's goodbye from me and goodbye from my co-host Bradley Morris. And we will see you later.